Well, in this month's At the Table magazine, Suvi Mahoney writes about her challenges with her young daughter and screen time. Don't we all have that? She looks into the research that's out there and the physiological effects, with experts suggesting it's not necessarily the screen time exposure that's the issue, but the content and how it's being used. Rach, what did you make of this article? And I'd really like to ask what Jax does with screen time. Like, what do you allow him to do?
I think in the very, very early days there was none, but it would be very hard because as parents we'd be, you might be bored. Sometimes you turn something on and his head just totally shifted. I think as he's gotten a bit older and I have a pretty huge work project on at the moment, the Wiggles are completely babysitting my child.
Oh, like another family member.
What'd you say?
They're like another family member.
Yeah, because in the absence of having family to watch him, all the Wiggles have become his best friend, and he's learning all of the songs, and he's actually, I'm finding that he's developing more language through it. Yeah. As far as you asked me about the phone, like what age he might have a phone. Yeah. I'm very much for kids having phones that they can use in case of like an emergency situation. So I think I would probably give him a dumb phone.
Yeah, because smartphone or a dumb phone?
No, definitely a dumb phone. Yeah. But I'd be as happy as Larry to give it to him as soon as he's out of my sight. And he knew how to use it so that he would be able to protect himself. So I think that that's the useful.
It's really interesting. I teach at a school on a Friday morning, and the amount of children who have to line up at school and hand the phones in, and they just live locally, and I'm like, really? My kids didn't have a phone that early, so it sort of shocks me.
But this is the primary school?
This is primary, so the oldest is year 6.
Okay.
So right from little tots
Are
all
these
the way
smartphones?
Up. Some of them are smartphones, some of them are just analogues.
Because I know the government, or was it the government? Someone is trying to introduce a system anyway in the high school. Victorian government is trying to introduce a system in high schools where they're just banning phones completely, which is pretty drastic. I think that probably, that'll be a lot of backlash.
I'm with you. I like the safety aspect. Like, my kids don't have a phone. My eldest is 9 and I haven't introduced it yet at all, but it's sort of in the back of my head for safety purposes. When they're on their own, I'd like them to be able to call me if they need to, but a dumb phone would be the way to go.
I think if you're thinking about, self-defense classes, or you're thinking about whistles or any of those things, I think a phone is just another tool that I give my kid to be able to protect himself, But I'm...
Sorry, go ahead. No. I was just going to say, we're talking about screen time and phones, and like when I was at high school, we'd have have to hand your phone in at the beginning of the day as well. The times are kind of changing, I think. It's only 4 years ago. But I often wonder if we're sometimes making it out to be this huge problem, well, particularly screen time for toddlers, that is actually not. Because I remember when I was a toddler and I would watch hours and hours of Play School. The Wiggles were also my babysitter, but I don't think it really negatively affected me that much. But I'm not sure. Do we?
I've seen the Twitch every so often.
If you've got access to the internet on that phone, you've got access to a whole heap of things that are beyond what you're sort of talking about there. And when we had, I can't remember who it was in here saying that, pornography is seen from such a young age. If kids have that phone and you're not with them and you're not watching what they're doing, you don't know what they're accessing.
That's what you said, content versus the actual time spent.
But isn't that then when we start having a conversation with our children? And I think this is something as parents that we don't do enough of, is sit down and have these conversations with kids.
Did you have the chat with your kids?
I'm still having chats with my kids on stuff.
So it's ongoing?
It's always ongoing, yeah. It's a different type of chat, but it's still a chat.
And that's one of the challenges with toddlers, is because when they're watching all of this stuff, it's harder to have those conversations and explain the effects and being mindful and moderate with stuff.
But what are they saying? To.
Yeah, but it's much harder to have a cognitive discussion with them.
And they're saying now that kids under 2 should have no screen time because it's starting to affect and delay their language.
Oh, good luck with that. Go through the local Coles and see how many kids are on the phone watching something.
Wow. Yeah, OK. Well, I know Melinda and Bill Gates sort of banned their kids until, what, they were 14, was it? Yeah, there you go. There's the challenge. If they're doing it, maybe it's cool. Let us know on Facebook. What have you done with your kids and phones? Give us some ideas on our Village on Facebook.